Prostitution in ancient Rome wasn't hidden. It was everywhere. Legal, licensed, and completely out in the open. Women working in brothels weren't criminals. They were registered with the government, paid taxes, and operated under Roman law. But here's what most people don't realize. These weren't glamorous establishments. They were tiny, cramped, and the women working there had virtually no control over their lives. What I'm about to show you about their daily routine will give you a completely different picture of ancient Rome. Most women in Roman brothels didn't choose this work. They were slaves or former slaves who had no other options. Once you were registered as a prostitute, that label stuck with you forever. Even if you somehow left the profession, Roman society never let you forget it. You wore different clothing, had different legal status, and were marked for life. That's the reality nobody talks about. Most history documentaries skip right over this part of Roman life. Have you ever heard what a typical day looked like for these women? Let me know in the comments. Because what I'm going to describe is based on actual historical records and archaeological evidence. The buildings themselves were called lupanars. If you've seen pictures of Pompeii, you might have seen one. Small stone structures with multiple tiny rooms. And when I say tiny, I mean it. Each room was barely big enough for a stone bed and nothing else. No windows, no decoration. Just 4 walls and a doorway with a curtain. Women worked in these spaces all day, every day. That was their workplace. The day started early. Women in lupanars were usually up by mid-morning, preparing for the day ahead. They lived either in rooms above the brothel or in nearby rental spaces. Basic accommodations, nothing comfortable. The first task was always the same. Making sure everything was clean and ready. The stone beds had to be wiped down. Fresh linens if they were available, though often they weren't. Oil lamps needed to be filled. Incense burned to cover up the smell of the previous day. It was routine maintenance just like any other job. Around noon, business picked up. Roman men visited brothels casually, the same way they'd visit a tavern or bathhouse. It was considered completely normal. The women stood near doorways or in the main entrance area, visible to potential customers. There was a price list posted on the wall. Different services, different prices. Everything was standardized and regulated. A transaction would be agreed upon, payment handed over, and the woman would lead the customer to one of those small back rooms. The curtain closed. Time passed. The customer left. Next transaction. Over and over throughout the day. Here's something interesting from the historical record. Prices were incredibly low. We're talking about the cost of a loaf of bread or a cup of wine. That tells you something about how Roman society valued this work. It also tells you these women weren't making much money, especially if they were enslaved. The earnings went to the brothel owner, not to them. They were working constantly for someone else's profit. If you're finding this informative, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I'm about to tell you about the afternoon and evening routine shows just how repetitive and exhausting this lifestyle really was. The afternoon was usually the busiest time. More customers, more transactions, more hours spent in those cramped little rooms. There were no breaks built into the schedule. If someone wanted to hire your time, you went. If another customer arrived right after, you served them too. The pace was determined entirely by demand, not by the woman's energy or comfort level. It was production work, essentially. Maximize the number of transactions per day. Archaeological evidence from Pompeii shows us exactly what these spaces looked like. The stone beds had grooves worn into them from constant use. The walls had graffiti, some of it left by customers, some by the women themselves. Short messages, names, complaints, crude jokes. It gives you this glimpse into the mundane reality of the place. This wasn't some exotic, mysterious world. It was just work. Boring, repetitive, physically exhausting work. The evening hours continued much the same way. Roman brothels stayed open late because that's when more customers had free time. After work, after dinner, men would wander the streets looking for entertainment. Brothels were clustered in certain neighborhoods, easy to find. The women couldn't leave their posts. They had to stay available until the owner decided business was slow enough to close for the night. That might be 8 in the evening, might be midnight. Depended entirely on customer traffic. When the day finally ended, cleanup happened all over again. Washing, tidying, preparing everything for the next morning. The women who were enslaved had no personal time to speak of. They ate whatever food was provided, usually simple stuff. Then they slept in their small quarters and woke up to do it all again the next day. The ones who weren't enslaved had slightly more freedom, but not much. They still had to show up every day, meet quotas, maintain their registration with authorities. One thing that's particularly striking is how visible this all was. Brothels weren't hidden away in secret locations. They were right there in regular neighborhoods, near shops and taverns and temples. Everyone knew where they were. Everyone knew what happened inside. Roman society had completely normalized it. Walking past a lupanar was like walking past a bakery. Nobody thought twice about it. The legal and social structure around this work was complicated. Women in this profession had to wear a toga, which was normally men's clothing. That marked them as prostitutes. They couldn't participate in normal social activities, couldn't attend certain religious ceremonies, couldn't marry into respectable families. Even if a woman somehow saved enough money to leave the profession, which was rare, that social stigma followed her forever. The registration was permanent. Your status was permanent. Health was a constant concern. Working in those conditions with that many transactions per day, in spaces with poor ventilation and minimal hygiene standards. There was no healthcare system for these women. If you got sick, you tried to work through it or you didn't earn anything that day. If an injury or illness became serious enough that you couldn't work at all, you were basically discarded, replaced by someone else. The system didn't care about individual people. It cared about maintaining the business. The economic reality was harsh. Even the women who weren't enslaved, the ones working independently, barely scraped by. The prices were so low, and they had to pay rent for their rooms, pay for food, pay various fees to maintain their legal registration. Most of them lived in poverty despite working exhausting hours every single day. There was no path upward. No possibility of saving enough to retire or change professions. You were stuck in this cycle until age or illness made you unable to continue. So that was life for women working in Roman brothels. Repetitive daily routine, cramped working conditions, low pay or no pay if enslaved, complete social stigmatization, and zero chance of changing your status once you were registered. The system was legal, regulated, and accepted by everyone in Roman society. Nobody questioned it. Nobody thought it was wrong. It was just how things worked. These women were providing a service that Roman men wanted, and that was all that mattered to most people. In the next video, I'm going to show you something equally eye-opening. What happened to women who worked as street vendors and market sellers in ancient Rome. The economic struggles, the daily grind, and some surprising details about how they survived. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to explore about what daily life was really like in ancient Rome. See you in the next one. This video is based on historical sources, archaeological evidence from Pompeii and other Roman sites, legal texts about prostitution in ancient Rome, and academic research about daily life during the 1st and 2nd centuries AD.